Julia is in Putney. Julia, good evening. What's your question?
Oh, good evening. I wanted to talk about a problem I've had with an architect over some faulty planning application and a basement conversion for which I was charged £188,000. In 2015, I embarked on a basement conversion. I employed a local architect to oversee the job, but he gave no indication of his own fees or any indication about any of the other work involved, which is an awful lot, as you can imagine, with a basement conversion. So I was not able to make an informed decision about the true cost of the project. He charged me at an hourly rate. Only when I'd lost confidence in him at the end of the project did I realise it was possible to have a fixed price contract. Therefore, I realised late in the day that he was stringing things out and charging me for unnecessary meetings with the builder without telling me, to discuss all sorts of pointless things, which I later discovered. He was also getting kickbacks from recommending various suppliers without telling me.
Do you know that for a fact, Julia, or are you guessing it?
Well, things like he kept saying, "Oh, you must buy this. Why don't you buy this washing machine for £700?" and giving me links and stuff. And then, this was by the end. I said, "No, I can get it for £200." So, but that was only a small part of the whole problem. At the same time, I was lucky enough to have a brownfield site in Guildford, a 27-acre partially brownfield site. And he advised me to put in for a pre-planning application for 4 houses, which we duly did, and this was accepted. He then took me out for coffee and tried to persuade me to put in for a full planning application. But in the meantime, I'd been talking to the local estate agents who'd pointed out that we had the proposed planning we might get for 4 small houses would not be of much interest to a developer.
Okay, Julia, just help me. Are you asking me a question about your basement conversion, or are you asking me a question about 4 new builds on a brownfield site?
I was doing with the architect.
Which one do you want to ask me a question about?
Well, both of them were sort of very agreed. The advice I was given were basically he charged me £188,000 to project manage this basement conversion, as well as put in for a pre-planning application, for which there was no chance of me getting any planning in the end anyway. And I pay. You pay a professional person to give you good advice. Obviously, I was very naive, and I should have been, maybe get second opinions. But he seemed very sort of trustworthy, and he took me out for coffees and all this.
Okay,
sort of thing.
Julia, can I ask you some questions? First of all, you say you paid $188,000 in fees. Was that to him as his profit, or was that for the building of the basement?
Oh no, gosh, the builders on top of that. The builders were great. I mean, they charged this £300,000, and that was all
so his
fine.
professional fees were $188, but that was for both the conversion, the basement conversion, and the planning permission for the brownfield site.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me what the problem was with his services for the basement. Let's focus on that first.
The work was fine, but what it was just being sort of not in the beginning of the project. When I looked through the architect charter, they're meant to you're meant to have a project of works. They're meant to be very careful about saying, look, this is what we're going to be doing here. This is what you're going to be charged here. But there was never any sort of estimate of what anything was going to be. Obviously I knew it was coming from the builder, but he gave no idea of what was going to be coming from anyone else. He never gave an idea of what his fee might have been. And it was only, when I realised...
Right, Julia, just pause a second. Complete this sentence for me. My problem with the architect regarding my basement was he didn't give me any information about his lack of transparency over the fees, really. Okay, now at the beginning, you agreed an hourly rate with him? No, an hourly rate was £100 an hour, yeah. So he did £100 an hour. So is my maths right here? He did 19,000 hours of work. 1,900 hours of work. Well, yes. If you managed to divide all that up, yes, that was it. That's a year working 8-hour days. Well, this is what I was charged. You see, I was very, very trusting, and he was sort of treating me like is the issue that you don't think he worked all the hours that he charged you for? Well, I don't see how project managing a basement conversion and putting in a pre-planning app could possibly have been that much, really. Right. Now, it sounds to me that this is a big money issue. Have you spoken to a solicitor directly? Well, no, I just sort of thought I'd ask you to see if it's worth me doing that, really. I'm not expecting to get compensation, but I feel his behaviour's been untrustworthy. Yeah. Well, here's what I think about the fees, first of all. First of all, they sound staggering. £188,000 at £100 an hour is 1,880 hours, 1,900 hours. That is a year's solid work. And he's not going to have spent a year
overseeing your basement and overseeing the planning permission for the brownfield side. So it sounds like there is some overcharging here. Are you familiar with the industry body for architects?
Yes, I did look that up, actually, yes.
Yep, and they have an arbitration scheme and a complaint scheme. Have you considered using that?
I did, but they said they said on the thing you've got to talk to the architect first, and because he's so, I just felt so anxious about having to talk to him again. I couldn't face having to talk to him.
Can you do it in writing?
I will if I have to, yeah.
I think that's the main thing to do, Julia. You've got to, first of all, ask for a breakdown of his bill. And normally architects do provide breakdowns. They have a professional obligation to break down their bills and explain exactly what time they've spent on what different jobs. It does sound like some chronic overcharging here. Have you paid the money?
Well, I paid it, yes.
Okay. If he has overcharged you are entitled to sue him for the money back. Hopefully he's got it. But the first step is to ask him to break down his bill to justify where the 1,880 hours went, because that just sounds extraordinary.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to have much of a claim in terms of he should have offered you a fixed fee, because it's actually just a matter of negotiation.
Well, I didn't even realise that was a possibility.
I appreciate that, but and also I've got to be honest here, £100 an hour doesn't sound expensive for an architect. Now, he's charged you for a lot of hours, but as a broad hourly rate, £100 an hour isn't that much.
Well, no, but it doesn't really matter because it's so much money, really, however he broke it down.
Of course. But what I'm saying is that £100 an hour, if you agreed that at the beginning, that's not something that should ring alarm bells at the beginning.
No,
because that's a reasonable hourly rate. So I don't think you can blame yourself for that. But let's move to the brownfield site. You said he recommended applying for preliminary planning permission and then for full planning permission, but you didn't get it.
Well, no, we got the pre-planning app came back okay from the council, which was sort of gave us the green light to go ahead for a full planning. But by then, I'd realised that actually to knock down one substantial house on 27 acres and replace it with 4 smaller houses, all the estate agents I talked to said, well, it's not worth anything. And then he introduced me to a developer friend of his who wanted to do a deal, but that wasn't going to get me much more than I would on the open market. And by this time, I was so fed up with him. But, he was things like, obviously he was charging me to introduce me to this developer friend of his. But
Julia, is your problem that he should never have suggested building 4 houses if they weren't going to make you any profit?
But as a professional person, his job was to actually talk to the agents himself and see whether it was really a going prospect, whether I'd actually
I'm not sure that's right, Julia. Surely it's your job. You've got to look out for yourself. If you're doing a build, if you're a property developer, it's your job to find out whether you're going to make any money on it. If you're paying an architect, it's not his job to tell you what level of profit you're going to make. It's his job to build the houses and make sure they don't fall down, isn't it?
Yes, but we had a planning company as well. But I thought that their job was really to advise whether this was really, a going concern. And a lot of these sort of no one feels sorry, but landowners, a lot of them are being ripped off by these sort of property companies.
I understand, Julia. It does sound to me like you have. Certainly good grounds to challenge the number of hours that he's billed you for, because 1,900 hours is just bonkers from what you're telling me. I don't think you've got any claim about the fact he went for an hourly rate rather than a fixed fee at the beginning. He's not under an obligation to offer you a fixed fee. Very often in property development, they don't know how long a job's going to take, and hourly rates are the way forward for most property developments. It is certainly not his duty, beyond a shadow of a doubt, to advise you on the economic consequences of a new build that you hire him for. That's your job. If you're trying to put together a business proposition to knock down 1 house and build 4, it's up to you to take the financial risk and investigate as to whether there's going to be any profit in it for you. So I don't think you have a claim there. But what I would definitely do is get him to break down his bill, report him to his professional body if you're not happy with it, because they will have an arbitration service. And if you're not happy with that outcome, well, you can bring a claim in the county court if he has charged you for hours that he hasn't actually worked or shouldn't reasonably have been expected to work, and you'd get that money back. But I would definitely, Julia, and I'm afraid it means more professional fees, with this level of money, get yourself a solicitor. Julia, thank you so much for that call. We'll be back to your legal questions in just a moment. You're listening to LBC. I'm Daniel Barnett, and the time is 9:16.